A show that tackles the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on JTV. This is the big story. I'm Kathy Richards. I want to thank you so much for joining us for this edition. We are continuing on the road to elections 2023, April 20 and 24. So on set with me today is Dr. Sandy Harrigan-Underhill. And you are a candidate vying for District 4 seat with the National Democratic Party. But first, it's been a while.
Yes, Kathy.
How are you?
First of all, let me just say thank you so much for having me, Kathy. This has been a long time coming. I'm so pleased to be here and honored to be here with you today. I'm doing exceptionally well at this particular time. Thank you.
Also, at this particular time?
Yes, at this particular time.
I remember the last time we would have sat, it might have been while you were principal
yes, that is
at
correct.
the Elmer Stout High School.
That is
and
correct.
Since then, you would have transitioned.
Yes, so went into politics in the last election cycle. And then after that, I was hired as the first director of the H. Lafferty Stout Institute of Education. So yes, and here I am again.
She is going again. What has driven that passion for you to, though you would not have made it at your first try in 2019,
yes,
to go again this time?
The thing about how I assess myself is I think that I am very purpose-driven. I am somebody who's God-fearing and always seeking to understand what my purpose is. And my purpose is always linked to a higher service to humanity. I enjoyed my stint at the Elmer Stout High School as principal, but always knew that I was destined to do something more and something greater, not necessarily knowing what that was. But when 2019 election came around and then I was asked, it seemed like the right place. And when I got a feel for it, it felt just like a natural transition for me. And here I am again. Ultimately, bottom line is to do service to humanity, which is what I think politics is all about, serving people, making their lives better.
Okay, you were serving in one capacity as a principal of the school, and then you moved on to the tertiary level of education in this territory. What's the difference?
So as the principal, you were more hands-on dealing with, although you had a wide range of persons to deal with, students obviously, and then teachers, the wider community, parents, and so forth. With respect to the college, we are dealing with teacher preparation and training. So you're looking at it now from the actual quality of your teachers in terms of what you're able to produce in the education system. So you're looking at it from a different perspective. The Institute of Education is relatively new. I think for the first time you had an institute that is just designated to training your in-service and pre-service teachers with the hope of extending the service to the open market in the region at some point. So it's a different aspect, but all of it is still education, ensuring that you are able to deliver the best standard and quality of education.
And do you think this would have been a good grounding for you should you get into government and is given a position as a minister, let's say for education? Would that have positioned you in a very good place to be very effective in that ministry?
The thing about that particular, any part of education, it is based on policies. And as the minister of any minister, that is, I would think, one of the main things that they do, main tasks that they're tasked with, is creating sound policies to advance the goals or the agenda of the particular ministry. So that would be the same for education. In a position of being the Minister of Education, you are poised to create the policies that would be able to exact a particular agenda. So I would like to think, given that opportunity, it would have better positioned me in terms of being in the strategic planning position, the policy making position, which is what is needed to drive the goals of the Institute of Education. For example, policies that have to deal with recruitment and attraction of teachers and deployment, and also linking that to global standards that also addresses cost of living and remuneration of teachers, that they are adequately and equitably paid. Those are the kind of things that I see myself having an influence over, and those are the things that are of greatest need here in our education system, sound, robust policies.
As we talk about policies and looking at making sure that teachers and administrators are comfortable, we are seeing that conversation continuing, and it's happening from administration to administration to administration, that enough emphasis is not being paid to ensure that teachers are in a comfortable place financially so that they can effectively take care of their homes. And once I take care of my home, I'm able to take care of my home effectively. That is passed on to the job and to the children that I come into contact with, and that continues to be a sore issue.
Yes, it's a holistic view. The thing about it is that from where I stand, what I would like to see is not just the point you made in isolation. It's the entire education system that needs to be given the requisite funding that it deserves. Funding for education has to be a priority. We have to come to the point in this society, in our country, where we understand that while we may not see immediate gratification, tangible gratification out of education, I would like to say, it is the long-term rewards is what we should be focusing on. We are building a nation, and we have to build a nation from the ground up, and it's with education. Education has to be given the seriousness that it deserves. Funding for remuneration of teachers, for training and preparation of teachers, funding for supports and services in schools, and on continuous training, particularly in the area of special needs. We tend to look at special needs, for example, as just the disadvantaged children.
They're just differently able.
But differently able children also means the children at the top who often get neglected. Children who are overachievers, who are moving fast through the system, and because they're moving fast, everybody turns a blind eye and, oh, they're bright, so we don't need, but they also need attention because they can get discouraged because of the lack of attention that is given to them. So the point I'm making is education needs to be given a holistic view. It needs to be looked at in a more serious way, and we need to be putting the money where the money is needed the most. You have to build the nation up. Infrastructure is important. Of course, the economy is important. All these other things are important. But without educated people, we cannot have the expertise and training we need to exact or advance the goals in these other areas.
You weren't a quiet voice while you were the principal of the school. And there were so many issues that you continue to push for and against.
Yes.
Have you seen, standing on the outside of the Elmore South High School, have you seen any progress over the years?
That is a very tricky question, Kathy. Let me just say, so my time that I spent at Elmore South High School was some of the most challenging years, I believe, this school would have faced. Secondary education was not only undergoing intense changes with mandates from the Ministry of Education with the additional year, EPE exams, a myriad of changes in terms of policy. It was also a time at the Elmore South High School, being the largest high school, where I came in at a time where every single thing as it relates to discipline was happening. There was drugs, there was gangs and gang-related activity. There was cyberbullying, which was a relatively new phenomenon that you had to really read up on, and the laws were not yet adequately addressing how to deal with issues of cyberbullying and so forth. Every possible thing, and there were constant police. Police was constantly on the Elmore South campus. It was a daily thing. It actually tested my ability to lead, and I believe my leadership would emerge as unorthodox, different to what a typical principal would have to do on a regular daily basis, not to mention the size of the school and dealing with nearly 200 staff. And then that would iron itself out to some degree. With the help of the media, I know you remember that I took to the media. People didn't understand my strategy and what I was doing, but I thought it was important to include public relations to sort of get the buy-in, the collective buy-in of the community, and it worked to some degree. And we had a lot of work to do by the end of 2016, but we were moving. And then came the storms of 2017, the floods, and then the hurricanes. And so I don't look at my journey at the Elmore South High School was more of a, I think, very humbly so, I would emerge more of like a transformational leader. And in so doing, I knew in my spirit, although I spent 27 years in education, that there was more for me to do. And I would pick that up during that period. That Sandy, yes, you're an educator, but now look at this. This is what you've done. This is what you're capable of. And so you have so much more to offer in your country, in your society, in building your nation. And I think that's where politics came in. But when I look at the Elmo Stout High School now, I am very careful. I know that it is a mammoth task for anybody who's given the responsibility of running the Elmo Stout High School. It is not an easy. People look at it and it is not easy. I think that the time has come for us to give serious consideration to junior and senior high school. It has to be this. The population of the school is outgrown in terms of its capacity. The time has come for us to give serious consideration to separating the schools into junior and senior high school. As a matter of fact, what I would like to see is the VIS, the Virgin Islands School of Technical Studies, being housed and located on the same campus as the Elmo Stout High School, where Elmo Stout will be only grades 10 to 12, VIS being grades 10 to 12, and they're able to share resources. They're able to merge in such a way that while you have two separate entities on the same campus, they're sharing, whether it's teacher resources, library resources, auditorium resources, and the like, so that students who are at Elmo Stout in the senior school will have an opportunity to take, for instance, elective courses at VIS and vice versa. And it would save the government a ton load of money because now you have shared resources. The time has come for us to be thinking about education innovatively, outside of the box. And that is one of the things that I would like to see happen in terms of advancing education, secondary education. And I think it would make any administration, their lives a lot easier.
Okay, you alluded to the challenges that the school faced, where police used to be in the school every day. I'm not so sure that they are not so present again.
Yeah.
From what we've been seeing and hearing, the presence of police, is required
Yes.
ever so often. One thing, though, I can safely say that I have not really heard much of happening as of recent is that of gangs in school. We're not necessarily hearing so much of that as it was back then.
Yeah.
But the level of violence against each other in the school seems to have gone over the edge. The use of weapons in schools seems to have gone over the edge.
Yeah.
How do we get this fixed?
Listen, this is, when I listen to you, it takes me back to when I was the principal of the school, and there's just a consensus, a feeling that it is one issue or one person's problem. A lot of times the school would get blamed because we weren't doing enough. I look at this as it's a holistic problem. This is a societal problem. Just yesterday or last evening, I was out campaigning and speaking to a gentleman in the 4th District, and he's an educator, over 30-something years in education. He's a senior at this time, and he was sharing some of his memories with me, with us. And he was saying that back in the day, it takes a village to raise a child. And he gave some examples of when he was going to school, and the headmaster at the time, it was called, would beat him for misbehaving or beat another student for misbehaving. And when you went home, you got an additional set of licks. And I mean, that might seem simple to us, but that is what is missing from our society. While we know we have evolved and times have changed, we are a small country. We are still a country, I would like to think, where everybody still to some extent knows everybody. The thing is, the parenting has changed. The interest in our youth has diminished. And so I look at it as a holistic issue. The churches have to get more involved. Organizations have to get more involved. Organizations who are set up or designed to counter issues of discipline, for example, mentorships need to be established, strong mentorship programs. We have to take the bull by the horns and recognize that this is a societal problem. It's not just the parents. The parents can do. I've seen situations where you come from a good home. I've seen it in my capacity as principal. Excellent mother, perfect picture, perfect mother and father there supporting the children, always there. And the children, once they get out of that nest and in with their peers and so forth, are influenced by other factors and so forth. So we cannot blame any one person. We have to see what we see and not turn a blind eye. Everybody needs to be involved and look at it holistically and see what we can do as a nation to counter what is happening with our youth.
Across sector, you're hearing that very talk of of persons now losing interest
Yeah.
in our youth.
Yeah.
It really touched me recently when I heard from a Sunday school teacher who said, I'm here now. She was in the church and said, I'm just sitting back to relax and to recoup and catch myself because I'm just finished dealing with over 50-something children,
Yeah.
and it was just two of us.
Yeah.
And I asked the question, so why weren't there other Sunday school teachers
Yeah.
to help? They're unable with them.
Yeah.
They really can't be bothered no
Yeah.
more. The kids are too bad.
And I don't like that word, Kathy, not to cut you, that we cannot continue to label our kids, our students, our youths as being bad. There's bad behavior. There's bad behavior. Behavior is negative, but the children that I've come across, and I think I would like to say I am in a good position to talk on this issue. Having had 1,400 plus students go through me at any one period of time or any one school year, when what
and
I would
kids
say,
of your own, don't leave that out.
yes, the most negative behaved student, when you get to speak to them and their heart, these are the most loving children, that some of them that I have met, who are just going through challenges in life, and they need supports and they need services and they need attention for whatever reason. The students that would be labeled as the worst students that have come through my hands have been some of the most loving students that I meet them on the streets today, and they come up to me and they hug me and they say, Miss Underhill, you were tough with me, but I knew you loved me. I recognize that. And so that is what they need. They need love. Everybody wants love. We all want the same things. And when we look at these students and we continue to label them as, oh, they're bad, it's psychological. They listen to that, they feed on that, and then they manifest that. So it becomes, you actually manifesting the one thing that you're trying to, I would like to think as a nation, we're trying to avoid by labeling them a particular way. They're not bad kids. The behavior is bad, and we have a responsibility to do everything in our power to turn that around.
And that's something I keep saying ever so often, is that, while we may look at things as bad, or an individual as bad, but for every situation, every child, every circumstance, look for the little good that is in there, and you will see, if you tap into it, you're able to turn around what we would consider to be bad. And that takes what, I don't even know how to describe it. How do you get into that? I immediately think of one thing that we see whenever a school is ready to celebrate any event or anything at all. We hear of the class of this and the class of that. How about us coming together as the class of this and the class of that to be big brother, big sister to the current students? That is what we need, Kathy. That is what we need a lot of. We have a lot of classes of this and that and the other, and a lot of excellent people, professionals who are experienced in various fields and so forth. But what we need is a strong mentorship program, and the mentorship can take on different elements, whether it's behavior management, whether it's self-improvement, whether it's help with homework, whatever, a structured mentorship program. And you can recycle the persons who are actually being the mentors in the program. That is what we need to do. We need to be linking private to public. This public school system, find out what their needs are through the counselors or through the principals of the school. What are your needs? And the needs don't always have to be something negative. It can be, looking at something from a positive standpoint and then matching those needs to a well-defined and structured mentorship program that takes on different elements, and that will be recycled. So instead of burning out the same people, we have enough people in our community, especially men. Men will make excellent mentors for our young boys. By the way, the other day I was speaking to someone in the school system who was saying that the junior school, for some remarkable reason, the boys outnumber the girls, which is unheard of. So we are seeing an influx of boys, and we have to start tailoring our structures and processes and systems and even curriculum to the boys, not leaving out the girls, but recognizing now that there's a insurgence of boys in the junior school, outnumbering the girls. Wow. Where have you ever heard of men or boys outnumbering girls? And that has been the trend for the last couple of years. So that's something you actually now have to sit back and relook at all your structures and systems and make sure that you're not leaving out our young men. what that says as well is that, you know, no one system set can be fixed.
Yes.
As you go along, things have to be revisited.
And adjusted.
You have to adjust based on the times. We definitely can't do things like our parents and our grandparents
Yes.
would have done.
Yes.
It's definitely a different era. But the challenges with us who would have passed through one era and is now at a different stage, being able to adapt and accept
Yes.
where we are
Yes.
now as a people,
Yeah.
and the position now that the youths now find themselves in.
Yes, it is. It's quite remarkable. I think a lot of the pushback in terms of my experience is always when there's change, when there's, you know, sometimes we know that the change is good for us, but because it requires us to now do something a little bit different, it's a little bit uncomfortable, and so we push back a lot on just innovative thinking most of the time. But we know, you know, after a while, you have to stick with it. Any good leader, any leader that is strategic, that is tactful, diplomatic, you stick with the thing. But the most important thing, you have to get people involved. You know, you have to hear their ideas and give them a platform to share with you and to come up with solutions with you and to partake in the implementation of your solutions. But yes, we have to be thinking outside the box. Innovative thinking. Yes, we were brought up in a certain era, certain things worked and so forth, and now this is a different era and we have to look at all the factors, whether it's environmental, internal, whatever, and marry that to the resources that we have and think outside the box and ensure that also that our nation is on par with global standards in whatever area. In this particular case, we're talking about education, that we're doing the research and that we're using data to help and inform our decisions that we're making.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit, but we're still looking at a new era. What are your thoughts on the new discussion now that, you know, it's time that this territory have a female to lead the government of this Virgin Islands, and if not necessarily as the premier, there must be at least 2 or 3 women in cabinet of the Virgin Islands.
Of course, I'm obviously a woman. I'm an advocate for women. I am an advocate for women. I am an advocate for the idea that the next House of Assembly should have women. But I must qualify the statements by saying that we have to be mindful that we don't make these statements broadly. We must value competence. We must value capability. We must value that person's service record of service. We must value these things. We can't just go in blindly and make a statement and say we want an all-women cabinet. It would be beautiful to see all women, but I'm sorry. I would like to see some men in there as well.
Balance.
It's a good balance. It's a good balance. You know, we understand, or I understand, that we are in an era where, if you look at other countries, women have been taking the leadership role in politics, and they've been doing a remarkable job. Barbados, for example, New Zealand, for example, they've been doing a remarkable job. But we do in the world, everything we do in this world is with balance. So I still do believe that the men are very much needed and valued in any new slate going in. And don't forget, yes, women, but we want to make sure that competence is also on the agenda.
And you spoke to institutional memory,
yes,
which is one of the key things there. And let's shift gear again.
Yes.
Sandy Underhill, Sandy Harrigan
Underhill, yes,
is running in District 4.
Yeah.
Were you at large the last time?
Correct.
Yes. So why district as opposed to at large?
So. Yeah, the thing is, Kathy, I wasn't even running in this election. It took me a while to get a new job. I was stable in my job, and I actually had zoned out politics, particularly after the COI and the recommendations and looking at just how the country was progressing and thinking and just observing that any new government has a mammoth task. It is no longer politics as usual. Any new government has to go in and take up the reign, first and foremost, to complete the COI's recommendations, which is something that a past government, previous governments would not have had to contend with, and that is a serious thing. Government, any new government going in today is a different type of ball game, and you have to be serious about what it is you're getting yourself into. I am a serious person, but I also was being practical. However, as the time drew near, literally, I would say 2 weeks before the election date was called, maybe I'll give it maybe 3, is when I made my final decision. And when I made my final decision, my Congress, so to speak, my party and my team, they kept saying 4th district, and I kept dismissing them. I kept saying, why the 4th district? I don't understand. I didn't understand. I am an at-large candidate. I am more, known for my time at Elmo Stout, my years in education. Why? And then a particular person sat me down and said, Miss Underhill, do you know that you were born and lived in the 4th district, and started to reminisce on and I started to connect the dots, and I said, but yeah, I grew up in the 4th between Longbush and Lower Estate. I worked, even my most impactful years of service to this country was done at the Elmo Stout High School, which is located in the 4th. My parents would have had businesses throughout my lifetime in the 4th, so they would have contributed to the economic growth and commerce of this country, all happening in the city in the 4th. And I started to think, and I said, this makes perfect sense. I prayed about it. I asked God to direct me, and it just seems like the most natural thing, the most natural transition for me at this particular time.
Looking as the clock is winding down on us in this regard, what's the feel on the ground from the people in the 4th district?
So I don't know. So those of you who know me, those of you who've been close to me and know me will know I'm a grassroots type of girl, meaning that like I get down and I get into the trenches. So the ghetto was one of the first places I would have gone to when I started the campaign, and it just felt so, and I hate to say this because this could come off so many different ways, but it felt comfortable. I went into the ghetto and I met past students, and I'm not going to call any names obviously, but I mean, I was welcomed and I felt good about the ghetto. And then I would have gone through Longbush, where I spent a lot of my formative years as a young girl growing up. I would remember walking through the softball field to get to and from school, because where Altez Catliff was Rotong Primary School, they shared the same campus as Elmo Stout High School. And so that was my stomping ground, and it just brought back so many memories. But just talking to persons who, of course I got a tongue lashing because they would say, well, where were you all these years? Because I really hadn't been in Longbush in a long time. But when I went back, I felt right at home. Remembering stories that my mother would tell me about my grandfather. My grandfather was one of the first Syrians to come to the BVI, and he would open the first Chinese restaurant right in the building across from the courthouse. And so, it just felt so natural to me when I started to do the campaign, talking to the people. However, the seriousness of it hit me that people are suffering. As you talk to people and they invite you into their homes and share their issues and challenges, you recognize, not that you're not aware, but talking to them and seeing that pain of what people are going through with the high costs of living, the increasing cost of living, having to choose between paying electricity bills and other utility bills and putting food on the table. A lot of what the consensus seems to be is social systems that needs to be, structures that need to be looked at in a way that is streamlined to make the processes easier for people to access the supports and services that are designed to make their lives better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so taking us out, the platform is yours, the camera is yours, the audience is all yours in this 30 seconds. Say what you want to the people.
So, once again, my people of the British Virgin Islands and of District 4, I am your District 4 candidate with the National Democratic Party. I'm so pleased to be here with JTV and Kathy today. What I want to say to everybody at the sound of my voice is to get out and vote. It is so important that we exercise our constitutional right. There's no other election that has been more critical than this 2023 election on April 20th and 24th. Get out and vote and be the change that you want to see. Exact the change that you want. Sitting at home is not the answer. I am telling you, it is a big mistake. Come out and vote. And remember, 4th District residents, vote for me, Dr. Sandy Harrigan-Underhill, because it's the right thing to do, one. Secondly, because it's the leadership. I believe that I am the leadership that you deserve.
Y'all, Dr. Sandy Harrigan-Underhill, great conversation today, and we look forward to seeing the outcome of the general election after April 24 on that night. So all the best.
Thank you so much.
Endeavors.
Thank you so much.
I wish that everything goes in your favor.
Thank you very much, Kathy.
Desire. And I want to thank you for taking time out to be with us here on The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards.